Hello and welcome to Bharat We've been running this series on the Ukraine battle. The first part of the series was on firepower, where we had 2 episodes. The second part is on the airpower. We've already had 1 episode, and this is our second episode on airpower. Like I said in the first episode, that this particular war has thrown in sudden huge lessons. The first one being the fact that we were all looking for a short and fast war, but it doesn't happen always, like Ukraine has proved. This war has been going on for the last 11 months. We've also been thinking in terms of air power and a lot of electronic warfare and a lot of cyber weapons being used, but we don't quite see it exactly happening that way. So what's the reason for it? In the second part of our air power, we will be focusing on drones, and we'll be focusing on certain other elements other than aircrafts, really. In the first part, we've already given you the utilization of aircraft, the utilization of helicopters. To help us go through this particular episode, I have with me Air Commodore S P Singh. Air Commodore S P Singh has been in both operations and air defense in the Air Force. He's also got about 3,000 flying hours beneath his belt, and he's currently with the Center for Air Power Studies in New Delhi. Welcome, Air Commodore.
Thank you very much, Retd. It's once again nice to be back with you for the second episode.
Right. We'll get on to a little beyond what we talked about in the first episode, really. And the first question that I have for you is about drones. How's been their utilization in the battle, and to what extent has it paid off, and how were they matched? Whichever way you want to handle this.
In fact, the last episode, if you remember, we spoke about the offensive operation of the fighters and the helicopter, and also the air defense operations, plus both how it was happening. And if I take it back to Afghan war, you must have seen most of the operations were by drones, which we didn't see in this war taking place. They're the main tenet of the air warfare nowadays, and we saw their entry much later in the war. Initially, it was mostly a land offensive combined with the little bit of air offensive, and that's how the war was progressing. Subsequently, as the winters started setting in, we saw now for the entry of the drones. And this drone entry actually changed the entire complex of the warfare. And the first entry, which as well was by the Bayraktar drone, which was given by the Turkey to Ukraine, and they caused a lot of damage to the armor as well as the targets in Russia. And that's how the drones entry took place. Thereafter, drones changed the complex of the war.
Right. The drones actually, like you said, has been a game changer in this war. If I look at it from the land warfare point of view, then it's that sensor and shooter, both of them being put in the same link together. And in the bargain, your response time is much faster. You sense a target over there, whatever means, and then pass an instruction straight to the shooter. But as far as air power is concerned, a little more, if you can tell us about utilization of drones.
First of all, let me compliment, sir, you brought out very pertinent point. The entire drone analogy is a sensor shooter timer has been reduced to almost zero. Actually, all the time that we used to spend time getting the recce and then after launching the offensive and then going, things could have changed. Here it is on the spot. So the drones have a lot of advantage. They have come out with a lot of advantage of the air power. First and foremost is that there is no manned, that means there is no loss of fear of pilot or the trained pilot being there. Secondly, it is a very small airborne structure which is there in the air, and it can't be picked up by most of it. Even today, we don't have soldier anti-drone facilities. So the drone goes unnoticed like a stealth. It reaches there unannounced and then is able to cause the damage. So a lot of surprise element is available with the drone, obviously, and it can carry certain weapon. Yes, there is a limitation in terms of the weapons it can carry, but it still can carry large amount of weapons which can cause substantial damage that we require. Then we come on to stage of swarm drones, where drones technology has moved very fast. Exponentially, it has gained wealth over the entire area of the warfare, where now the drones are used in various kind of things. That means they can use as sensors, as recce aircraft, as well as the shooter itself, and also as a swarm drone, they cause huge amount of damage simultaneously. And they create a major headache for the enemy air defenses, which are not able to track them or shoot them down. So that is where the drone has changed the entire complexion of the air warfare.
And there are no good anti-drone measures.
As of now, there is nothing much. The trials are on, the research is on, but no major anti-drone systems have come up as yet.
So obviously we'll see perhaps more usage of drones as they come, and they're also very cheap perhaps.
Very cheap, absolutely.
As compared to a Su-57, let us say, if you're going to use a couple of drones and if you lose a couple of drones, it may not matter so much, but losing a Su-57 maybe...
Absolutely. You're very right. They're much cheaper and they're much easier, faster to produce. Number can be produced in large numbers and they're much easier to produce. That's right. So their availability is easier and training required is not much. Like for a Su-27 or Su-57 fighter, we have to train for years together. And sort of paraphernalia required. For this drone operation, you just require one operator and teach him, and thereafter the drone is operating. It can be operated on remote also nowadays. It can be operated on satellite control. So the drone has changed the entire system and the entire complexion in a much varied manner of the air campaign.
Yeah, like you said, the manpower part of it. So with more and more artificial intelligence also coming into the loop, I guess we will have a lesser play as far as men are concerned. But let me take you a step beyond and we'll talk about missiles now. As I read the battle, as the winters have started coming in, it had started coming in, we saw an increase in the use of missiles and perhaps some precision missiles also. What do you have to say?
See, as I understand the Russian thought process, I think they have also shown that they weaponize the resources also. They weaponize the oil reserves with them. And they were waiting for the winter to set in, where they knew very well that land force will get stuck and there will be no movement. So very thoughtfully, I think, they have kept these missile attacks for a later stage. And that's we saw them unfolding as the war progressed during those days. And we saw now the entire warfare shifting from the land base or sea base to shifting to air base. All the attacks that were earlier carried out by fighter aircraft or helicopters are now being carried out by the missiles with a precision target as well as the drones. So these are two platforms which are used more often than the earlier war. And that's how the entire complexion once again brought the focus on missile attacks only.
Okay, we'll go back to the air power really. In last campaigns, major campaigns, you can talk about Second World War onwards perhaps. You can talk even about the Afghan campaign by the Americans. The battle has really started with the use of air power largely.
Absolutely.
And they have brought the objective area, the country concerned, whatever be the objective, as far as possible to its knees before they have really launched ground operations. But we didn't quite see that kind of a scenario being repeated over here in Ukraine. Why?
Absolutely. You're very right, sir. First of all, let me say the entire analogy of warfare came to different orientation after the Gulf War. Gulf War was changing, once again, the changing scenario where air campaign preceding the land campaign and thereafter the joint operation became the norm. And this was thought that the air campaign by itself can knock off the targets and thereafter their land operations can be much easily done. And this was shown by the Allied forces during the Iraq War. Subsequently also this was now followed and think tanks all across the world, strategists thought this to be the best way of employing air power. But the Russian-Ukraine war has changed the entire competition once again. It is now brought to fore that the protected air war is being done while the contract battle closer is given a higher priority. Now this entire scenario should not be taken as a lesson immediately. There are much more analysis to be done, I feel, because air campaigns still will proceed, they think. Because like here I said, a lot of losses have been seen by the Russian helicopters and other forces because they did not carry out the proper air campaign initially, like C8 operation, D8 operation. And a fancy was...
By C8, you mean?
C8 is suppression of enemy air defense by electronic method, and D8 is destruction of enemy by physical firing of the air defense system. So you have to knock off the air defense, create corridors, and then go in for the air attack, and thereafter the land forces move in. Now this classic air campaign was not followed for various reasons I covered in the last episode. Now this has resulted in giving a different outlook to the entire type of campaign. Yes, one thing that earlier we had thought about, that all wars hereafter will be short and swift, that has been knocked off. The wars are going to be longer duration. We saw in Afghan war where the US was stuck for 20 years and they could not pull out, finally they had to run out of it. And this time in the Russia-Ukraine war also it's a very long battle going on, and similar is the case going on. The war has not started, but they kind of, you see the skirmish going on between the Taiwan and China. So this is coming to a light that no war is going to be as short and fit for the as we think because of the air campaign. But yes, air campaigns still will have a larger role to play. It has not been done in Russian-Ukraine war. There's a different reason for it, which I covered earlier. One is because they don't want to lose the entire air power might against the Ukraine. They want to preserve it. They want to preserve their technology to be hijacked by the NATO forces by electronic methods, or also because of the kind of people who are there. They are of this similar kind. Ukrainian and Russians are more or less have the relations across the border. So these could be various reasons where the air power has not been used fully in a clustering manner.
Right. Thank you for that. We'll go a little beyond, just the aircraft or the helicopters, etc. What about this new family of weapons, hypersonic weapons, weapons at Mach 3, Mach 4, Mach 5? The Russians do possess some of these. Their utilization, etc. in this matter.
A very good question, sir. You have seen that actually this issue came up during this war, where the Russians have mentioned about the hypersonic weapon. They launched a few of the hypersonic weapons just to show that they possess this weapon. This is used as a deterrence. Though in the Russian-Ukraine war, the hypersonic weapons don't have much use because there is no anti-air defense available to knock out the weapon. While they can achieve the same effect or larger effect by lesser technology weapon, they need not use the hypersonic weapon. But they were just to show as a deterrence and a show of might to NATO forces and to America that they possess, and they should not interfere too much. Or it was more like a threat or deterrence used against them. Though hypersonic weapons are going to be in the future, and they are the once again, they can't be tracked by any radar as of now, they can't be tracked by any of the missiles, and they can't be lost, so they'll go unhindered and they'll reach the target. That's how the hypersonic weapon will come in.
Yeah, in fact, that frigate of the Admiral Gorshov is going to Mediterranean, I think Indian Ocean also.
Absolutely.
The whole idea is to show NATO that they've got hypersonic.
That's right. That's
well, one last question, and that's what are the lessons learned from this campaign so far by us, the Indian Air Force?
I think that's the most important thing, sir. The last question is the most important. While we have seen the Iraq-Iran war, we have seen Afghanistan war, and now we've seen this, there are huge amount of lessons we draw. But let's not draw the wrong lessons, first of all, because there are different scenarios, different ways those wars have been fought. Yes, one very important thing for us is to understand that wars are not going to be short and swift as we prepare, as we think this is going to be. So we have to be prepared for long haul of wars, especially with China if it takes place. With Pakistan, there will be a different scenario, but with China, definitely it could be a long haul. Secondly, use of drones is going to be huge. And this is where we have to now, I am very happy that our Prime Minister has made this, taken this step and moved towards Atmanirbhar, and there has been a lot of thrust on the drone manufacturing in India. And this is going to be the future of war, and drones are going to be used every year. So we have to be well prepared for this, and we must move fast in this technology. Next, our air defense systems have to be state-of-the-art, and we are lucky that we are procuring the S-400 from the Russia, and thus our air defense is going to be stronger. And lastly, your entire combination of the weapon system, aircrafts, and the operation scenario has to work dovetail with everybody. That was joint operation, which CDS is already in place, and we hope that we will move fully towards the joint operations, and we must prepare for it, train together. That is really the essence of it. Like Russian forces, unfortunately, they have not been trained also for this joint operation. They never had this kind of joint operation. So that is one of the failure which is coming out. Whereas, fortunately, Indian Air Force and Indian Army, Indian Navy, we have done a lot of joint operations and joint training together. So I think we'll be much better off in any case or any scenario like this. And these are the major few lessons that we must keep in mind.
Well, thank you, Commodore SP. I think it's been a very fine, very knowledgeable, well explanation of all issues connected with the Ukraine war. Thank you for sparing it.
Thank you so much for giving us time and giving this time. It's a pleasure always with Bharat Shakti.
Thank you, viewers. Thanks for tuning in to BharatShakti.in. Do tune in now and then and get on to our social media network sites. Do like us. Do let us know in case there are any subjects that you want us to cover. Thank you.